is because my great fear was that the ruling party, having done all this for the chief prosecutor in the island, it could be seen, and optics are very important, that whatever her decisions were, if they involved the government, would have been a payback by the DPP for giving her this extension.
Bless up, my people. Welcome back to the channel. It's a girl and Isabel Rose. Thanks for all the new subscribers. Thanks to the returning subscribers. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notification bell on. Put it on all so you won't miss an upload from me. On the road to 20k, help me to get there, my people. So in this one, my people, the battle is still on for the constitution, and the battle is still on for good governance. And some people following the court's ruling on the tenure of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Mark Llewelyn will speak out in this video. We'll hear also the Attorney General speak out amongst, two attorneys at law. Some people, stay tuned for the details at hand. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Run go over to my other platform. Subscribe over there. Get that channel to 1K for me, please and thanks.
First of all, as parliamentarians, we all swear an oath or affirm to uphold and defend the Constitution of the country. And we are living in times where we have a government which likes to play fast and loose with the constitutional rights of our citizens and with the normal principles of good democratic governance in the country. This is not the first occasion on which the opposition has had to play this role of assiduously guarding the Constitution from a government that is intent on violating it in various ways. There were, for example, the NIDS case, the case of the NIDS legislation, which again was rushed through Parliament with undue haste when we warned the government that it violated constitutional rights of our citizens to privacy in the form in which it had been presented to Parliament. They chose to ignore our request to have that legislation be properly reviewed by a joint select committee, and we had to take it to court, and the entire legislation was struck down by the Constitutional Court, and the government had to wheel and come again and bring new legislation to deal with the question of a national ID. There, of course, are the state of emergency and the use of the states of emergency by this government, which we have said is not consistent with our Constitution, and we have brought proceedings before the Constitutional Court to test their use of it. And those are pending proceedings which will come to trial in due course. There's also an earlier test of the constitutionality of the states of emergency brought by a young man called Rushane Clark, where the court ruled in his favor and awarded substantial compensation because he had been detained under states of emergency in circumstances which the court agreed were not in keeping with the Constitution. And there have been other instances, the attempt to appoint a Chief Justice on a probationary basis, unheard of in the history of Jamaica and indeed other jurisdictions, which civil society and ourselves objected to fundamentally as violating the separation of powers principle, where the Prime Minister took it on himself to think he had jurisdiction or power or authority to review the performance of a Chief Justice and decide whether or not he should continue in office. And before that, there were these undated letters of resignation signed by JLP appointed senators as an attempt to give the Prime Minister leverage over them in relation to the CCG legislation that was being brought by the then government of the People's National Party. And those were tested by two, I think it was, or certainly one or two senators on their side when the letters were used by the Prime Minister to remove them. And that was held to be an improper device and a violation of the Constitution. So we have been vigilant in a variety of matters, and this most recent one is very, very important. It is groundbreaking because this was a bill to amend the Constitution that they passed, and the basis upon which it was challenged was because we felt that the way in which it was seeking to do this was both for an improper motive, but also was in violation of the constitutional arrangements to do with how a DPP can have her tenure in office extended. As you know, the current DPP had received a 3-year extension prior to her 60th birthday in accordance with the procedure that the Constitution provides, and the Governor General approved of that extension. And her tenure of office should have ended in September last year, which was the end of that 3-year period. The government, for reasons which one can only speculate about, sought in July last year, just before the summer break, to rush through this legislation to to amend the Constitution, not only to say that future DPPs and Auditors General would retire at the age of 65 rather than 60, but also to apply that to the existing incumbent. And that is where they violated the Constitution. And that attempt was struck down today by the Constitutional Court. It is quite clear that the tenure of the existing officer that has been holding that position since September last year came to an end, that the attempt to extend it was invalid and unconstitutional. And I therefore call upon the Services Commission to proceed with alacrity to embark on the process for appointing a new DPP. The advertising, etc., should be done. And in the meantime, that the Governor General, acting on their advice, Service Commission advice, should appoint somebody to act in the position. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just part of what has been happening in our country in terms of gross violations of the normal precepts of good parliamentary democracy and good governance. We know about, for example, the situation in our parliament in relation to the former clerk who, on the eve of her retirement, after decades of service to the parliament and to the people of Jamaica as clerk to the House of Parliament, was a recipient of a letter which wasn't a private affair but was emailed to all parliamentarians and became public immediately, castigating her, criticizing her in relation to the issue of how reports which come to Parliament from the Auditor General in this case were being dealt with, and saying that she had committed essentially a disciplinary infraction by not carrying out the ruling of the Speaker, and that the letter would be put on her file. As it turned out, the Speaker had to back down on that issue of those reports, and they were indeed, when the Auditor General sent them back to Parliament, the reports having been returned to the Auditor General, when they came back to Parliament, they had to be tabled, and they were tabled. And they were tabled in circumstances which are inconsistent with that ruling, a ruling which we think is flawed, and we've said so all along. And we are calling once again for the opinion of the Attorney General's chambers on this matter, which we've been asking for months and months, to be released to all parliamentarians so we can see what the Attorney General's chambers said about the procedure for tabling reports. And this is a matter which we'll be looking at closely as to whether we're going to have to take this matter to the courts for a ruling as well. But in the meantime, we're asking once again for this legal opinion to be released. That opinion is not an opinion belonging to the Speaker. The Speaker acts on behalf of Parliament in seeking the legal advice of the Attorney General on a matter that affects all members of Parliament, and indeed all parliamentarians, including the Senate. And the opinion that was granted, was issued by the Attorney General, should be shared with all parliamentarians so we can see what the principal legal advisor to the government has said on this matter.
Following Mark Golding's press briefing right after the court ruling, we've seen the Attorney General, Derek McCoy, is dismissing their suggestions that Paula Llewelyn has automatically vacated her position. Mr. McCoy says the claimants have interpreted the orders of the court as having the effect of removing the incumbent DPP from office. He says no order has been issued to that effect. The court has confirmed that by Section 2, subsection 1 of the amending act, the age of retirement has been increased from 60 to 65. However, given the divergence of interpretation and given that judgment was given for claimants, the government will be pursuing an appeal with respect to the striking down of Section 2, subsection 2. I'm a people, him come out strong right after the opposition. This is the very same Attorney General who signed off on Nigel Clarke's budget presentation, right? Allegedly. And this is the very same Attorney General who signed off on DPP's second extension, saying that it was constitutional. And so it begs to question what is really going on. What are they really hiding when they're coming out so strong? Meanwhile, we're seeing Attorney at Law Christopher Townsend questioning the court cases that have been tried and decisions made by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions during this second extension of her tenure.
What are those rulings? What will happen to them? What's the effect of them? Another question is the other officers in the DPP's office, they act on the instruction and at the behest of the DPP. Now, what will happen to the decisions that they have made? What will happen to the indictments that they have signed on her behalf? Some are calling it a constitutional crisis, but certainly it is unprecedented from certainly my memory. We are looking into it because we did quite a few matters during what we now are calling her questionable tenure. Paula worked tirelessly at her job. She has been an excellent DPP. You can't satisfy everybody. That's my view, but she has worked tirelessly at her office. I don't think anybody can complain about her job when you look at the work that she has done in its entirety.
Also, Bert Samuels says the ruling striking down the second extension of the tenure of the Director of Public Prosecution is a victory for the Constitution, and that the Parliament was acting in a vulgar way to preserve the DPP in office.
When I saw the mechanism used by Parliament to give this huge favor to the DPP, I knew that there would have been something to be challenged, and it has been successfully challenged. I think it is a victory for the upholding of the Constitution. I think it's a victory for the administration of justice, because my great fear was that the ruling party, having done all this for the chief prosecutor in the island, it could be seen, and optics are very important, that whatever her decisions were, if they involved the government, would have been a payback by the DPP for giving her this extension. So it was, to me, very untidy, and the Parliament, to me, was acting in a, for want of a better word, a vulgar way. I'm wondering, who are the legal advisors to the government, because there's been so many failures in an attempt to tickle with the Constitution. And I'm happy that there is a judiciary, which is an institution which is independent of the executive, so that we have the Constitution being honored and upheld by our courts. I think that there have been too many missteps in relation to amendments or laws which are an affront to the Constitution. They need to seek advice possibly elsewhere.
So my people, I'm definitely waiting to see what steps will be taken from here. Where does our Constitution, lie from here? With everything that has been said in this video, my people, I want to drop phone comments in the comment section and let us reason. You understand? We're still seeing some defending, the DPP, and we're still seeing some against the DPP. But I want to hear from Uno. What do you think about the Attorney General coming out, basically saying that, she stays. The court has not ordered her to vacate. But what does striking down a second extension as unconstitutional, what does that mean? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Run over to my other platform, Instagram and Facebook, and follow me over there at Anisabel Rose. Check out the YouTube store, make a purchase, it goes in support of the channel. Check out the YouTube membership, you get a lot of benefits by becoming a member. We do notification shout out in each and every video. To be a part of that, all you have to do is be the first to like, comment and subscribe, and you'll be featured in the following video to come. This notification shout out goes to Major Daps. Pick up yourself, Major Daps. Thanks for the continued support from each and every subscriber. New viewers, come on board, journey with me, join the family, subscribe to the channel, like up the video, share out the video, support the ABR movement by playing your part. On the road to 20k, help me to get there, my people. Get this video to at least 2,000 likes. Share it out, my people, so we can get more opinions on these matters. Stay tuned for more updates, stay tuned for more videos. Big up on yourself.